Great to have you with us today on We Are Takoma. I'm Regina Reese.
And I'm McKeely Brown.
For today's show, we headed straight to the community, finding groups that are taking a stand against hunger, helping at-risk youth, and even residents who are voicing their concerns on local political issues.
And first up is M.A.N.U.P. M.A.N.U.P is a popular nonprofit that is getting kids off the street and developing them into tomorrow's leaders. We'll be speaking with the executive director, and he'll be telling us more about this great organization.
From city council meetings to radio interviews, the talk on lowering or maintaining the voting age in Takoma Park is buzzing. We have two Takoma Park residents talking about whether they're for or against it.
And whether or not you knew it, Montgomery County is the 16th wealthiest county in the nation. So why is hunger still such a big issue for families? The pastor of Takoma Park's Presbyterian Church hopes to respond to these issues and more with the launch of the community kitchen. So you all will want to stick around for that and more when We Are Takoma returns. Keep it right here.
We want things like college tours for them, and that takes a little more funding. But really just solidifying the program and coming to some point where we can really have it a great program and work with the kids as often as possible is what we really want funding for.
What? It's make-believe. Nobody left anything under your pillow.
If there's no credit fairy, then we'll make our credit score go up.
We will. By doing things like paying our bills on time.
There's no magic to improving your credit, but there's help, and it's free. Go to creditfairy.org.
What?
Every year, 8 to 12 million animals enter animal shelters nationwide. Only 3 million of them find a home. Guess what happens to all the others? 5 to 10 million animals are euthanized every year because they can't find a home. So adopt a pet from the shelter. Because for these animals too, there's no place like home. For more information on adopting an animal, call the Washington Humane Society at 202-723-5730 or visit their website at www.washhumane.com.
Animals, like people, get frightened when a disaster strikes. They might run away in panic. Pets should wear an identification tag.
Thanks!
Ma'am, is this your dog?
Yes.
I need to see some proof of identification.
The ID is in the house.
Okay.
And I've got this picture on the camera.
Well, we do need to go up and look at the ID in the house.
Okay. Come on, Max.
Owners should have papers and photos as proof of purchase. As a pet owner, are you ready? A message from the Takoma Park Emergency Preparedness Committee.
A local and very popular nonprofit is changing the lives of inner city youth. Brandon Johns is an NAACP policy analyst and the executive director of M.A.N.U.P. Brandon, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So tell us, what is M.A.N.U.P. and what does it stand for?
M.A.N.U.P., the actual name of M.A.N.U.P. is Making a New United People. We're a nonprofit organization created initially, not even as a nonprofit, but just to mentor youth, what we call underserved youth. Right now we're doing the Takoma Park area, but we'd like to do it at some point in the whole D.C. metropolitan area.
And so it's making a new united people.
Making a new united people.
Okay.
Correct.
And so what are the age ranges?
We range between 12 to 19. Oftentimes now we have youth who kind of age out of that 19 area. We're trying to use them as peer mentors. A lot of that is still kind of in the works, but we still have youth who are like 20, 21 in the program who come visit and kind of mentor and speak to the younger kids about their trials and tribulations and their actual progress and what they've done so far. So it works out well.
And we've actually seen a couple of you guys, seen a couple of your kids out here in the community center.
Yep.
They're usually out here also in the city council.
Yep.
That's a good thing. I mean, what makes your group unique?
I think what makes our group unique is, one, our kind of curriculum and what we're trying to really, I guess, I don't want to say teach the kids, but what we're trying to expose them to. And another part of the mentors. To be honest, we're Mostly, I say relatively young because I'm getting kind of up there in age at this point, but relatively young.
We're there with you. Don't worry.
Slow down.
Don't worry.
Slow down.
I realized it though. I said the other day, I said a joke to the kid. I said something like "chump," and the kid said, "What does that mean?" I said, "All right, well, that doesn't work here."
Yeah, that's
way back
I
above their
was like,
heads.
wow, and they really didn't know. They had no idea. So I was shocked. But I think we can understand. We come from shared backgrounds. So when they see me, they see them. They see themselves. So I mean, I think that really adds an additional component to the program. It's not like they feel like they're working with people they don't have a shared background with. They actually know I have had these same experiences as them, and so forth and so on. So I think that actually is what kind of propels the program. And I think another big part of the program is we're trying to teach them that, not teach them, but we're trying to have them think that being cool is not necessarily what they're showing on TV and being on the corner or doing something illegal, but getting an education, being socially active in your community, helping out, things like that.
Developing leadership skills.
Exactly. Things that right now our community as a whole is not really pushing forward, but we're trying to change that and make sure these things are now cool, like education.
Now, when you were younger, did you participate in a similar type of program?
I did. There's a couple programs in my neighborhood. I'm from Philadelphia. There's a couple good programs. And my mother actually ran a program, which kind of, when I look at it, when I think back on it, that probably kind of made me want to do it now. Kind of see how the program worked with the kids. But yeah, it was there's a local community center. We went and we played basketball all the time, and there's other programs they had. And just having my mom there and having people there who would come talk to us, it was great. They didn't have, my mom was a little bit older, so it wasn't like a M.A.N.U.P necessarily, but it was one lady coming, taking her time out and really showing us things we hadn't learned before, we didn't know before, so it was great. It was great.
And as far as your work in this field now as an adult, how long have you been working in this field?
Well, we've been doing M.A.N.U.P since 2009, March of 2009, so 4 years now since we've been here. Before that, I mean, I've always worked in the neighborhood. I mean, I've always worked with the community. I've always worked with youth. Before that, I worked for a nonprofit. I've worked a couple different jobs, but directly with a nonprofit called Parent Watch, and we advocated for parents and youth. And I worked with youth in the YSC Center in D.C. on Mount Olivet Road. So, and those were detained youth a lot of times, and a couple of youth in Oak Hill at the time as well. So I've been doing it for probably around 7 to 8 years now, working with kids, and it's something I want to stick with, and it's important to me, and I think it should be important to everyone as well.
So the program's been around for 4 years, and you guys are just now reaching out to City Council. What's changing? I mean, what made you guys come out that day to meet with the council members?
To be honest, it was a great day, the day it all happened. We had a presenter come. We had the county executive, Ike Leggett, come, which was a great day for us. He kind of gave a speech to the kids. He told the kids where he came from and the trials and tribulations that he had getting to where he is now and how he's become now successful. During that meeting, the mayor of Takoma was also there, and he asked the kids at the end of the program, what are you guys looking to? What can help the neighborhood out? What can help you guys out specifically? He mentioned that they were thinking about doing some things around a public library opening on Sunday, I believe. But then he asked the kids, what do you guys think would be beneficial? The kids pretty much all yelled out, more days of M.A.N.U.P, more programs like M.A.N.U.P. We want M.A.N.U.P to be more often. We want M.A.N.U.P. So at that point, the mayor said, you know what, that's a great idea. I can see how this program is beneficial. If you guys would come out to the city council and kind of explain to us why you need the program and why it's necessary and things like that, that we can possibly work some things out. So I'm happy to say that we're nothing's happened yet, but we're working with the mayor and the city council and to trying to get these funds and things like that to help out the program.
What type of benefit will the funds mean? I mean, I know you guys already go on trips. There's some type of stipend that you would like to actually offer mentors now?
Yeah, there is. I mean, as you can imagine, we come every Tuesday, and there are mentors from all around the city. So it's difficult sometimes to get there. I mean, these are all working people as well. So understandably, they've been doing it since 2009. We all have been doing it for free, and it's not a problem. If anything, we established this saying that we weren't trying to get money out of it or anything like that, so it's understandable. At this time, we're feeling the kids, I don't want to say need more of us, but they would like to have us more. We think we can have more of an impact if, one, we had more days possibly. So that'd be a benefit to actually be able to be here more often,
Keep
take
them
them
off
on
the
more
streets
trips.
as well.
Exactly, keep them off the streets. And kind of be here more often with them, mentoring and explaining things. And also like the trips. I mean, take them on trips to museums and things like that. But it'd be good to be able to take them on like a trip out of state, or, you know what I'm saying, something really to open their eyes. And that's going to take a little bit of money. We want things like college tours for them, and that takes a little more funding. But really just solidifying the program and coming to some point where we can really have it a great program and work with the kids as often as possible is what we really want funding for.
And just briefly, Brandon, what are some of the issues that these kids are facing? The
education they're receiving in school is not great. I'm not saying the schools aren't great schools, but their connection with school and how much they're learning from it and taking from it in their grades, they're not doing well. Some of our kids are doing great. Let me not say that all of our kids are doing well. Some of our kids are A students, doing wonderful, always have been. But another percentage of our kids is doing the opposite, not going to school as much. They're not involved as much. It seems that the schools aren't paying as much attention as we'd like them to do. So for that, I mean, I think we try to help them out with that education they're missing. Another part of our program is keeping our kids off the streets and keeping them out of trouble. From time to time, when you do have problems in school and you're suspended or whatever the case is, or just when you're not that interested, you get involved in other things. So they could be out on the street or something like that, and who knows what type of legal things they may get into. So having more man-up time and having more of us telling them this is why they shouldn't do that, this is why you guys shouldn't be selling drugs or whatever the case is, that's what our program is here for. And really just expose them. There are a lot of things in our community I think the kids need to learn that are not being taught in school, and sadly, sometimes by parents, and some parents are great, obviously, as I'm sure we know, but sometimes the kids aren't receiving that education at home, which is also what we're trying to supplant. We can't be parents at all, but we're still trying to impart some knowledge with them that they might not be receiving from other places.
When it comes to the funding and the support you're trying to get from the city, is it just a matter of submitting a proposal and all sort of goes well, or is the process?
You know what? I'm not totally sure. I mean, we've submitted some grants and proposals thus far, but something's for the city, especially the city of Takoma. I think I'm not totally sure, to be honest. We've had conversations with the mayor and the council members, and it seems like they're on board. We're still trying to work out some things, so I don't really know what they need for us to submit next. So I'm looking forward to hearing what is needed to hear what's needed back from us. But I mean, they've seen the program. I think they've seen the kids at the city council and heard what they need. So I'd be willing to give anything that is needed to the city council if whatever is needed, to give them a detailed block budget of what we've done, what we need money for, and how this money will be accounted for, and things like that. So I mean, it can work. We have a treasurer already set up, and he can definitely make that budget and explain anything they like to see. So we're willing to do whatever they like.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
You guys have done the first step by coming out to city council meetings and also just being on the show. Thank you so much for coming on, Brandon.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, and if you'd like to learn more information about Man Up, you can go on to manupnow.org. Sounds good, right? Man Up Now?
Yep.
All right, coming up next, find out what Takoma Park's Presbyterian Church is doing to change the face of hunger around Montgomery County. That story up next.
On the educational front, there are two sides to it. On the one hand, again, we want to be able to help people with employment. We've started doing training for food handlers licenses, and we can do that even before the kitchen is up and running. And that makes a real difference for people. If they have the food handler's license, they can get a good job in a food-related business.
Welcome home, man.
I got no pulse. We're losing him.
Sergeant, he's in VFib.
Shock him.
Guys look real all the time. We just had a few drinks. This can't be happening.
Are we clear?
Clear.
We're just buzzed.
Just buzzed. You didn't tell us that, sir. You're right. This isn't happening. He'll be fine.
I feel good.
Really?
No, not really.
Buzz driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal.
Shock him?
My sadness and depression grew out of giving myself to my career before I would give myself to myself.
I didn't want to tell my parents. I really didn't want to tell anybody, and I didn't. I shut down.
Giving voice to what you're feeling is part of the healing.
The healing is in me and can also be extended to others.
If you're strong enough to just open your mouth, that's all it takes.
Hi, I'm Terry Williams. Can I tell you that it is way past time for us to come face to face with the issue of mental illness in the Black community? Time for us to stop hiding it behind closed doors. Share ourselves. Healing starts with us.
The Takoma Park Presbyterian Church is opening their doors to the needs of the community by launching the Community Kitchen. And joining us from the church and the Community Kitchen is Pastor Greiner. Pastor Greiner, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here today.
Now, can you tell us how this idea for the Community Kitchen came about?
Surely. A couple of years ago in our congregation, we did inside the congregation a listening campaign because we wanted to hear from our own members what their priorities were as a church. And one of the key things that we realized is that we really wanted to be good neighbors. We wanted to address the needs of our local community. And we started looking at what the assets are that we have as a congregation. We realized that our building is one of the major assets, and we had a commercial grade kitchen that wasn't being used. So we started to ask ourselves and started to talk with our neighbors about how this kitchen could be used to serve the community.
And it hadn't been used for about 20 years, right?
For about 20 years,
Jeez.
a good long time.
What was the building for originally to have a kitchen?
Well, the building has a gymnasium, and there is a commercial grade kitchen in front. One of the main uses initially was that the county had run a daycare center in the building, particularly addressing the needs of low-income children. Well, about 30 years ago, the county was no longer able to continue running it, so it became, the daycare center became part of the church, but the food program didn't continue. So the kitchen fell into disuse, and now, some 30 years later, we wanted to pick it up.
Mm-hmm. What kind of programs are you planning to host from the Community Kitchen?
Three differences we'd like to make. We'd like to make a difference economically, we'd like to make a difference educationally, and we'd like to make a difference with hunger. On the economic front, part of what we realized is that there is a lot of need for commercial grade kitchen space for people to rent that want to start food related businesses. In the whole of Montgomery County, there are almost no commercial grade kitchens available, and those that are available are really expensive. So we started to realize, particularly for people who are lower income that want to be able to start food related businesses, that's something that we can do. So that whole micro-enterprise piece is really key. On the educational front, there are two sides to it. On the one hand, again, we want to be able to help people with employment. We've started doing training for food handlers licenses, and we can do that even before the kitchen is up and running. And that makes a real difference for people. If they have the food handler's license, they can get a good job in a food-related business. We've also started talking with both the Montgomery County Department of Recreation and right here, the Tacoma City Department of Recreation, because they've identified a real need and interest among teens to learn how to cook. Well, our community center here doesn't have a kitchen. We have a kitchen, so they could do the programming, we can provide the space. It's a real beautiful way that we can work together as a community to address some educational needs. And then finally, around addressing hunger, although we won't be providing food for people on site, we can be a place for the preparation of food that can be served elsewhere. There's a really interesting program in our community, in the larger community in Montgomery County, called Farm to Freezer. If excess food is being produced on farms and can't be consumed immediately, well, rather than let it go to waste, we can be a site for preparing the food and freezing it for storage, and then it can be distributed to hungry people at a later date. It's a really great way of doing a community partnership.
we can actually get our friends from M.A.N.U.P involved and have them learn how to, you know, put together some healthy dinners, lunches, meals, different things like that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I've never thought about that as far as just being able to host something to help some of the low-income families that are interested in starting businesses. I mean, providing income for other families. I mean, that seems like it has a huge impact.
Absolutely.
Right? And it just doesn't stop, doesn't end.
Right.
Okay.
Now, are there ways that the city and the county are able to support you all?
Well, for me, I've been just so pleased and really excited to discover what it means to be a citizen here of our town and our county and the state of Maryland, because the city, the county, and the state all have means of funding to help organizations that are really trying to make a difference in the local community. I'll start off with what's been happening here in Takoma Park. There is a means by which community organizations can apply for grants, and we've applied for a $10,000 grant to cover staff time for a kitchen manager to oversee the reconstruction. So that's a very specific thing that the City of Takoma Park may be able to help with. At the county level, both the county executive and the county council have funds available. There's an annual application process so that you can apply for funds to do building improvements. That's really important. It's not so easy to find funds to do building, but the county is really strongly looking at these things. And in fact, just this week, we got 2 letters from the county executive's office saying that we will be funded in the year to come. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Jeez,
I was
that's
very
huge.
pleased. Yeah. And then also on the state level, there's something called a bond bill that, again, it's an annual kind of application process so that you can get money for construction. And we're in the midst of that, and we've been visiting Annapolis and speaking with our representatives. So it really, again, has made me so excited to be a citizen of Maryland and to see how at each level of government there's been a lot of forward thinking about how to support communities.
It's been a long time in the process, right? About 2 years?
About 2
Is it
years.
safe to say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, when do you think, I know there may be some, you know, maybe some uncertainties, but do you have a general idea about when this will actually happen for the community?
Well, what I can say is my hope. If all the funding comes into place in about the next year, we figure that the reconstruction would happen about a year, so about a 2-year timeline.
Okay, about 2 years. Okay. Yeah. Pretty safe to say.
Yeah. If there are folks who want to learn more about the work you all are doing or even show their support, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Oh, thanks for the question. If you go to the church's website, which is takomaparkpc.org, it's for Takoma Park Presbyterian Church.org, there's information about the kitchen, and our email address is on the website. Our phone number's there. Just call, ask for Pastor Mark Greiner. That would be the way.
Okay. Pastor Greiner, we want to thank you very much for joining us today. And just to reiterate what Pastor Greiner just said, if you visit takomaparkpc.org, you can actually learn more about the work that they're doing there.
Up next, to vote or not to vote at the age of 16. Yep, we brought the talk here on We Are Takoma. That's coming up.
We lived here our whole life not being able to have a say in what's going on and, you know, maybe not even think of it, but now that this is coming about.
Nationally, we see so many young people are so disengaged from politics and so disengaged from what really is going to impact their life in the long run, and I think to break that cycle, you've got to let us have a voice and be involved.
You know, we've grown up here, and I plan to be able to have Takoma Park be my home always, even if my job takes me halfway around the world. I still want Takoma Park to be my home.
So you can't save money? That's easy as pie. Brown bagging lunch instead of going out. $6 save times 5 days a week times 10 years is $21,000. That's a lot of lettuce. Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow. Feed the pig.
wouldn't.
When life's this hard, graduating can be even harder. But you can help Ativa and the students in your community make it through by visiting boostup.org.
A new question is challenging public opinion. Should 16 and 17-year-olds be allowed to vote? Well, Robert Anderson, he is a Maryland licensed psychologist and 41-year educator, doesn't seem to think so.
Also joining us is Miss Vanita Meyer. She is a proud mother of two, a PTA president of the Piney Branch Elementary School, and very active member in the community. She's making the case that the Takoma Park voting age should be allowed or changed, rather, to 16 years old. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you guys for coming.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Ms. Meyer, we will start with you. Why do you believe the voting age should be lowered?
Well, the question is whether or not extending the voting age will increase voter participation in certain demographics in our community. I don't know the answer to that, but I suspect that it won't very much. I don't think that it will hurt the process, though. I know there have been studies taken in areas that have adopted the measure, and it's been shown that it didn't damage the civic process. I know from personal experience with my 12 and 9-year-old that our children are very smart, they're engaged, they're aware. I think that any 16-year-old who would bother to take the time to go out and vote would do so responsibly and make an educated decision, even if it was different than the one that you or I would make. I just don't believe that it would hurt the process.
Okay. Okay. And so do you feel like just because they already take on adult responsibilities that they would be able to be responsible for making such a decision as voting in local elections?
It depends on the child. I think that any 16-year-old who cares about this sort of thing will get out of bed and go vote. The ones who don't will stay home and do whatever they do.
And take the time to educate themselves, possibly?
Eventually.
Very important, yeah. All right. And Mr. Anderson, for you, I mean, how do you feel about all this?
I think that while it's a good idea to increase voter participation, I think moving the age down to 16 is not the way to go. If you look at 16-year-olds, you look at youngsters who have absolutely no adult rights. They can drive, they can do a variety of different things, but only with parent permission. They can work with parent permission, but they can't even go on a field trip to the Smithsonian without parent permission. They can't belong to the track team without parent permission, and there's good reason for this in terms of brain development. If you look at adolescent brain development and child development all as you go, basically the older folks get, the more connection there is to the frontal lobes in the brain. The frontal lobes are the place where you make judgments, where you have impulse control, where your decision-making process is involved. And 16-year-olds do not have that connection as yet. Additionally, when 16-year-olds are given a picture of emotionally laden content, they will respond more emotionally, differently than either adults or younger children will. So there are a variety of issues that mitigate against giving 16 and 17-year-olds the right to choose folks who will make decisions on our $26 million budget in Takoma Park, and even more so, be members of the city council. The move afoot does not prohibit 16-year-olds from being on the city council, and I can't imagine a 16-year-old making decisions on personnel issues that may come up, on whether to give Old Town Business Association any finances for their thing, doing contracts with the state, because they can't sign contracts at all. So for a variety of reasons, I just don't think that it's a good idea to give 16-year-olds the vote. When you look at some are ready, yes, some maybe, but we're not giving some students the right to vote. We're giving the whole group of 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote. And I simply can't be sure that only a few who are involved are going to be moving into the voting booth.
Do you feel like it could hurt the process?
It very well could, although, you know, if you only have 2 candidates, how hurtful can it be? But one of the issues that we have in the elections is low turnout. So when you have low turnout and you add a group of voters, you don't know what that group of voters is going to do to the turnout. If they turn out in large numbers, they very well could affect the election in significant ways.
I'm very big on driving as far as the importance of paying attention to the road and being fully engaged. And 16-year-olds are allowed to drive. Do you think giving a 16-year-old the responsibility of taking care of themselves on the road and taking care of other drivers' lives is sort of equal to voting, if I'm clear?
Well, I would think that the state has probably made that determination because at 16 you don't drive without a parent permission, first of all. Secondly, you have a provisional or learner's permit until you're 16 and a half. You have a provisional license until you're 18. So until you're 18, you do not have a full license. Additionally, what's the accident rate for 16 and 17-year-olds? It's far larger than the accident rate for older people.
So I got this off of the National Youth Rights Association page, okay? It says, in quotes, "If we let stupid adults vote, why not let smart youth vote?" How do you guys feel about that statement?
A lot of grown-ups who probably should not be allowed to vote, yet they are. And I think there are a lot of young people who would do a fine job of it.
Okay, and for you?
I think that absolutely, but that's not a very particularly bright argument, I have to say, because you have to set a limit someplace unless we start giving tests for you know, what's your IQ? If your IQ is 100 or over, you can vote. Well, that doesn't make sense. That smacks of poll tax and all the kinds of things that have gone on to restrict the right of vote. So you have to leave it at some particular area. And at 18 years old, that's constitutionally the place where folks are allowed to vote. And if you look at 18-year-olds as a group, which is what we're talking about, they're far more mature than 16-year-olds as a group. So I think that particular issue is really a non-issue, and it's a distractor.
Well, from what I'm aware of, Seth Grimes and Timothy Mayle, both on the council, are both for lowering the voting age. Do you offer any type of suggestion what people should do to actually come to an actual conclusion, or what the city is going to do about this? I know you had said basically, look, just watch kids in their own environment, see what they're up to, see how they interact. Do you feel like that's a suggestion that you should make, that you can make to other people?
Absolutely. I'd say spend a couple of weeks in a high school and see how youngsters behave in high school. If you go in a high school cafeteria, you have the cafeteria workers handing out food. If you go to a college cafeteria, same thing. But in high school, you have security, you have teachers, you have administrators as monitors, because youngsters are youngsters. As a 41-year educator, I'm not saying that youngsters are bad. Please understand, I love kids, but they're acting age appropriately, and being age appropriate doesn't mean that they should vote. In fact, it means the opposite.
What would you all...
Oh, go ahead, please respond.
I was going to say that I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. I just believe that the 16 and 17-year-olds who pay attention to the issues and care one way or the other are as capable as I am of making a good decision. And I think the ones who don't care won't vote.
Probably
just like a lot of
sustain
grown-ups.
from it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you all think, similar to a provisional driver's license, a provisional voting ability or license, where a child, a 16-year-old or 17-year-old, who is interested in voting could do so with parents' permission or support? Do you think that would make a difference to the situation at hand?
I think either one is fine.
No, I don't think it'd make a difference. What would you do with a provisional vote?
Maybe you could vote, but
and
you would be voting with the understanding, similar to driving, that you are aware of what your vote means.
You would have to have parents' approval, is that what you're saying? Or-
Yes.
I think it's fine, either way.
So that means the more politically aware parents and children would be able to vote, and the less politically aware parents would not be, which would disenfranchise, I would think, a decent part of your community. So I think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, well, you came out to city council members. There was like a youth group. Kids came out, and they were basically telling their side on why they want to be involved. There was a playground that had gotten demolished, and one of the kids were like, well, you know, or one of the teens, I should say, was like, well, you know, I wanted to have a say in what happened with this playground, and that's something I didn't get to, and I've been here in this community my whole life. Is there maybe another way that kids could vote on these issues, whether it be maybe just on a smaller scale as a playground? Maybe it doesn't have to be on a scale of a council member. Do you think maybe we could, like, I don't know, find some type of medium?
That's why children have parents.
For their parents to make the decision.
Make decisions for them. And they can be influenced by the youngsters, and youngsters can certainly talk to the parents about particular issues. But, you know, in that situation you talked about, you know, we're talking about the council is looking at MOUs with the state about roads. It's looking at grants. It's looking at personnel issues. And the issue that they came up with that was important was a playground, and they called each other kids, saying kids have interest in these kinds of things. So again, they're looking at a very limited kind of issue as opposed to the broad issues that voters have to decide.
Thank you guys so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And that brings us to the end of today's show. We'd like to thank all of our guests for coming out today.
And if you'd like to learn more about our programming here at City TV, you can find us on Facebook at Takoma Park TV.
Don't forget to like our page.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.